Welcome everyone. I'm glad you're here for my very first virtual conference presentation. I'm going to make my intro short and sweet because I know you want to get to the content quickly. But before I get started, I wanted you to know that I'll be sharing all of these hacks in a document, and I'll share that link with you at the end of the presentation. Also, my store will be on sale all throughout our virtual conference. You can just search the Yellow Brick Road on TPT and you'll be able to find me there. And lastly, if you like to follow blogs, I'd love it if you'd go to my blog at www.yellowbrickroadblog.com and see all the content I have posted there. To begin, I want to go over all the things I'm going to be teaching you to do today. So the first and most important is how to convert the files that you already have into Google Slides. Whether that be PDF, PowerPoint, or Keynote, I'm going to show you how to do that. Also, I'm going to show you how to force presentation mode. If you haven't used Google Slides much, this may not mean anything to you right now, but it is important for your students. It means that they won't be able to move any of the objects you've placed on the screen. Rather, they are just forced to interact with it in the way that you intend for them to do. I'm also going to show you how to do presentation mode without the navigation bar, and then also how to avoid auto advance on Google Slides. So in PowerPoint, if you're familiar with that, there's an option where you can make it so that you don't automatically advance to the next slide when you click on a slide. However, with Google Slides, that option isn't there, so I'm going to show you a hack for that. So the first thing I'm going to teach you how to do is how to convert PDFs into Google Slides. And on this screen is a list of all the steps we'll take to do that. And it may seem a little overwhelming to look at this list at first, but each of the steps within it are pretty simple. Essentially, we are going to use Automator to create a workflow, which is going to turn our PDF into images, and then we'll upload those images into a Google Slides presentation. I'll also be showing you an add-on that will help make that process easier, as well as several different methods you can use to turn your PDFs into images beyond just using Automator. So here's the PDF that I'm going to convert into images. And to do that, I'm going to search in my applications for Automator. And that's this cute little robot here. And I'll open that up. And since I already have Automator open, it's pulling up a workflow that I already have on my desktop that I use this often. So I'm going to scoot that over, and I'm going to show you how I created that workflow. So choose workflow, and then from here I'm going to search and find the actions I need to create the workflow. So starting with get specified finder items, and I'll just drag it and drop it into the workflow. And then next I need render PDF pages as images. I'll drag that in. And then last, I need to create a new folder so that those images will go into a single folder on my desktop. I'll drag that in. Okay, so there's our workflow. And you can change some options in here if you'd like. I'm going to change the 200 DPI to 300. And then I'm going to grab that PDF, drag it in, and I'm going to give that folder of images a name, Instrument Riddles Images, and then click Run. And depending how large your file is, this may take quite a while. And it's finished. You can see the folder right here. If I open it up, there are all my images. Okay, now I need to save that workflow. I want to save it on my desktop so that I can use it, find it easily and use it. And so I'll type in PDF to images. I want to save it to my desktop and then hit enter. And now that workflow is saved to my desktop right here. Okay, so now that we have that folder of images, we're going to go to Google Drive, and I want to upload those images to my drive. So I'll choose Folder Upload, and since they're already on my desktop, pretty easy to find, click Upload. Once it's uploaded, then I want to create a new Google Slides presentation, just a blank one. And I'm going to get rid of some of these things I don't need, like those text boxes, and get rid of that side panel. And then I'll go ahead and rename the presentation Instrument Riddles. And then I'll go in and change the page setup to whatever dimensions your slides are. So mine are standard. Click Apply. So now the slide is the right size. And then I want to go into Background, choose Image, and I'm going to go into Google Drive. And I'm going to find that folder of images that I just uploaded. And here they are. And I'll choose the first one, Insert, and then click Done. And there it is. It's now as a background and you can't move it. And I'll do the same for the next slide. Again, I'm deleting these excess text boxes that I don't need. And I'll do the same thing. Go into Background, choose Image. It's already pulled up since I've used it before, and insert the second image. Now obviously I don't want to go in and create a new slide and have to delete those text boxes every time. So here's how you can create new slides that are blank. You just click on the blank slide, hit Command C, which is copy, and then Command V, which is paste, and then I just pasted all of those blank slides. And now I'm ready to add the images to all of these blank slides to create the full Google Slides presentation. Okay, so you're probably thinking, well, that's wonderful, Jennifer, but what if I have, let's say, 60 slides that I have to insert as background? I don't want to go through each slide individually and do that, which is totally understandable. So there is a Google Slides add-on that you can use that will do it for you. The add-on that I'm going to use is called Slides Toolbox, and to get it, you're going to go up to Add-ons. I already have it. But if you don't have it installed, you'll click Get Add-ons, and then you'll search for Slides Toolbox, and it'll pop up, and you'll click on it, and you'll just go through all the steps to install it like you typically would any add-on that you've done before, or if you haven't, it's pretty self-explanatory. Okay, so I already have it, so I'm going to go back up to Add-ons, and I'm going to open it. And then it'll pop up on the right panel, and I'll go down to Import Tools and click on Create Slides from Images. And I want a single image on each slide, and I do want them set as the page background so they can't be moved. Click Next. And then I'm going to find that folder again of those images. And here you'll see that all the images are not in order, so I need to go up here and order them by name so that they're in the proper order, and they are. So click on this first one, and then I'll do Command A, which will automatically select all of them. And here's where you get to wait. It takes a solid 2 to 5 minutes, honestly, depending on the size. But it will eventually load all of your images. And there it is. All of my images are loaded as backgrounds. You'll notice as I scroll down here that I only have 50 slides, even though there were 60 in the folder. And the reason for that is due to Google memory restrictions. It has nothing to do with the add-on. So you would have to go in and select those final 10 slides and do the import process again if you wanted to get all 60 in there. Okay, so again, here are all the steps we took to be able to convert PDFs to images and then insert those into a Google Slides presentation. An important step to remember is to save your Automator workflow to your desktop, so that way you're not having to recreate a workflow each time you want to convert that PDF to images. And one last thing is that I should warn you that Automator does fail from time to time, and most of the time, honestly, I don't know the reason. I just exit the program, restart it, and it works. However, I did discover, actually while creating this presentation, that Automator doesn't like some PDFs that are secured with a password. I don't know if this is all PDFs secured with a password, because I don't have the capability to test that. But if you do run into that issue, there are other ways to convert PDFs to images. And here are some of the ways that you can convert PDF to images without using the Automator workflow. You can use Preview, which is free. I personally have had issues getting it to do what I want, so I don't recommend that. But certainly you can try. It may work for you. You can use Adobe Acrobat, which is also very simple to use, but of course requires a subscription fee. And you can also screenshot each page. If you only have one page PDF, you may find that to be helpful. But of course, if you have multiple pages, that would be very time consuming. And unless you're really careful, your screenshots probably wouldn't all be the same size. The next thing I'm going to show you how to do is how to convert from a PowerPoint. Now, if you have a file that's Keynote, then you'll have to save it as a PowerPoint first, but then you'll follow all of these steps. And the steps are really simple. You just drag the PowerPoint into your Google Drive like you would any other file, and then you open it up with Google Slides, and then you save it as Google Slides, and that's pretty much it. To begin, I'm going to go into Google Drive, and I'm right now in basically an example folder I use just for tutorial purposes, and I have my PowerPoint ready, and this PowerPoint is Musical Mansion, and it's an interactive presentation. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to drag that PowerPoint into my folder, and then you'll see down here it will take a little while for it to upload, and then when it's finished, I'll go up to the file, right-click, open with Google Slides, and this process takes a little while. And then once it pops up, you'll see up at the top the extension is still showing PowerPoint, so it's not Google Slides quite yet. We want to save it as Google Slides, and then here it is. The extension is no longer PowerPoint. It is saved as a Google Slide, and it's ready to go. And you can see once I refresh that page, the new Google Slides version opens up, and so I can remove the PowerPoint version. Another great thing about this is that when you open up that Google Slides presentation, all of the links that you had in your PowerPoint presentation, or at least most of them in my experience, they still work. So these arrows are all hyperlinks taking me to different areas in the presentation. And even the links that take me outside of the presentation, those all still work. So in that last example, I was opening Musical Mansion in presentation mode. And this next step, I'm going to show you how to force presentation mode for your students. And the reason you may want to use this is because if you have an interactive presentation, oftentimes the audio and video links will only play in presentation mode. In fact, that's one of the first things I say in my directions for the interactive presentations that I have, is that audio and video links will not play if it's not in presentation mode. And secondly, your students won't be able to move any objects that you've placed on your slide if it's in presentation mode. So the important question is, what exactly is presentation mode? Well, if you look at the slide I have up on the screen now, the image of the desktop, that is exactly what presentation mode is. There is nothing off to the side. If students click around on that slide, they're not going to be able to change anything. And that's different than what we would call normal view, which is the view we see as we're creating presentations. So we have like a slide pane, and we have a notes pane, and we have toolbars at the top where we can edit the slides and move the objects all around. And so when we have our students looking at our presentation, we don't want them to be able to do those things. So we want to create a forced presentation mode. To create the forced presentation mode, I'm going to open up my Musical Mansion and then click Share. You can see the owner, which is you, of course, and then we're going to make sure these settings are correct. So if it doesn't already say this, you'll want to click that drop down and say anyone with the link, and then make sure it says Viewer, and then click Copy Link. So the link is copied. Now you're going to pull up any word processing software you want, and then you're going to paste that link in there, and way towards the end you're going to see the word Edit. You're going to delete that and in its place put Present. And then you're going to copy that new link and then paste it into your browser. Click Enter. And now you have the forced presentation mode, so your students can click anywhere on the screen, but they're not going to be able to edit the presentation. The third hack I'm going to show you is similar to the last one. It's still forcing presentation mode, except this time it's going to be without the navigation bar. So right there, many of you may have lots of questions like, what is the navigation bar? Why does it matter? So the navigation bar is the tool that shows up at the bottom of the Google Slides, which lets you click on an arrow to move to the next slide or move back a slide. And the reason you would not want this there is for interactive presentations with internal links. So an example of this would be my Musical Mansion. And the reason you want the navigation bar to not be there is so that students are forced to actually interact with the presentation rather than just skipping ahead slide after slide. Also, sometimes that navigation bar can obscure the objects and the hyperlinks that are within the presentation. So let me go ahead and show you what I mean by that. When I open the Musical Mansion and I go into presentation mode, you can see down here to the left there is that navigation toolbar I was telling you about, and you can see I can just click through slide by slide. I don't have to go in any order that was intended. So let me go back to that first slide. So this is what I really want students to do. I want them to click on these arrows and to read the information that's there and to be able to explore the Musical Mansion that way rather than using the navigation toolbar that's there at the bottom. To create that presentation mode without the navigation toolbar, I'm going to again go up to the Share button. I'm going to follow all of the same steps I did before, making sure that anyone with the link can view it, making sure it's set to Viewer, and then I'm going to copy the link. And again, I'm going to open up word processing software, going to paste the link. Now this next step is a little bit more tricky than the last one. So we are going to delete everything at the end up to Edit. Delete all of that. And then we're going to replace it with Preview $RM equals minimal. Then I'm going to copy that link and paste it into the browser like I did before. And then now you can see there's no toolbar at the bottom. And students then are forced to explore the mansion just like I intended. So they have to click that arrow, they have to read through that information in order to get to the different rooms inside the mansion, such as the ballroom or the library where they can go through a secret tunnel and find the secret laboratory, and the library with all the different books. So they are forced to see all of those pages without skipping ahead. So now that you've seen how to do this, let's talk about when you would want to do forced presentation mode versus forced presentation mode without the navigation bar. So you will want to do forced presentation mode without the navigation bar if you're using a lot of internal links. So internal links are the ones that take you to another slide that are within the presentation. So for example, in the Musical Mansion, students would click on an arrow and go to another room in the mansion, but that's still all within the presentation. Now, if the presentation has only external links, and those are the links that take you to a website outside of the presentation. An example of that would be if they clicked on the musical chalkboard in the mansion, they would be taken to Chrome Music Lab, which is a website outside of my presentation. If a presentation only has external links, then the navigation bar probably isn't going to be a problem. The exception to that would be if the navigation bar is covering up icons. So I have on the screen an example from my basic series presentation where the navigation bar is covering up both the home icon and the arrow to take students back. So that would be another example. Even though it's using both internal and external links, you would want to do forced presentation mode without the navigation bar. The next hack I want to show you is how to avoid auto advance. So auto advance is when you click somewhere on a Google Slides presentation and it immediately advances you to the next slide automatically. So the problem with this, of course, is with presentations with internal links. So if students are able to just click anywhere on the slide and it immediately takes them to the next slide, then they're not going to end up where you want them to be. So Google Slides doesn't have a built-in feature to stop the auto advance, so we kind of have to use some hacks to get around it. Let me start by showing you what it looks like when we present a slideshow and it has auto advance. So you can see I'm clicking not on the arrows but in random places on the slides, and it's immediately taking me forward to the next slide each time. I'm going to exit out of the presentation, go back to that first slide, and you'll see I have already a hyperlink on that arrow, but I'm going to go ahead and create a shape, make it as big as the slide, and then I'm going to make it transparent and make the border transparent too. And then I'm going to go up here to the link, and I'm going to link that transparent box to the slide it's currently on. So that's slide 1, and then I'll click apply. And you'll see it's covering up the arrow hyperlink, so I need to go up here to arrange and change the order so that that big square is in the back of the hyperlink. Okay, then I'm going to take that big square or rectangle that I made that's hyperlinked, and I'm going to copy, and then I'm going to paste it to this slide. And I'm going to again put it to the back so that it's not covering up any hyperlinks I already have. And I'm going to continue to do that to the entire presentation. Now, the cool thing about Google Slides is that I don't have to link each rectangle to the slide it's on. It automatically does that. So when I'm copying the rectangle and pasting it to the next slide, it's automatically linking it to that slide. So I've skipped ahead to where it's all finished, and I'm clicking present, and as you can see, no matter where I click on the slide, as long as it's not on an arrow, it's not going to advance me to the next slide automatically. So believe it or not, our half hour is almost up. So here's a quick recap of what we've learned so far. So we've learned how to convert Google Slides using Automator workflows. And remember, there are other methods to do that, such as using Preview, Acrobat, or screenshots. We learned how to force presentation mode, and also how to do that without the navigation bar. And then lastly, we learned how to get rid of auto advance on Google Slides. I know that was a lot of information to take in all at once, so here's the link to the slideshow that gives you all the steps, as well as links to the resources I used and some of the terms that I used that you need to know. And also I'm going to be sharing this link in the comments section in the Facebook group, so be sure to check there as well. Thank you so much for coming to this presentation. I hope that it was helpful for you, and if you have any questions, please feel free to go to my blog, and if you search in the upper right corner, you'll see all of my social media, which you can contact me through. And then also, if you go up into my top menu and click contact, you can email me directly. So please feel free to do that, and thank you so much for coming today.